Hello, everybody, and welcome to Monte Jade's Tien's Forum. It's a long-running tradition at Monte Jade, and today the particular session is titled Leadership in Management in the Age of AI. Now, I want to welcome everyone on a Saturday morning, and traditionally we would have loved to have everybody in person, but we're in a pandemic, and within the pandemic, we're doing what we can. And today's event is hosted by Monte Jade West, and we look forward to having a both hopefully informative and also entertaining session is what John and I have in mind. And today's honor speaker is Dr. Chen. He's currently the VP of Technology and Foundry Management at NVIDIA. And we will let me sort of hold off. All of you have read the bio. That's why you're here. And we'll just go into, the session with a little bit of background briefing before we jump in. So Ryan, if you're driving this slide, why don't we move on to the next one? Great. Just some, housekeeping details. This is on Zoom, and we expect to have a lot of people in the audience. And this just to, as you notice, this event is being recorded. And please use the Q&A function in Zoom. And also, we do want to keep this interactive in the sense that please do participate in the chat. I will run with John for about 30 minutes, then we'll pick up some questions, and then maybe switch back to a couple, other questions. But hopefully, I will reserve at least half an hour for all of you to sort of interact with John directly. That's our hope. Hopefully, we can stay on schedule with that. Okay, Ryan, next. And so it's here at Monte Jade. It's an organization that John and I have, and many of you have been sort of participants of. And, I myself have been here since the 1989, since the formation of this group. Monte Jade was founded in 1989 by immigrants, from Asia. They bounded together to support one another because we're under-resourced. And through this community, billions of dollars of enterprise value was created, and hundreds of companies were formed. I remember hearing from the story from the original founders that they worked in each other's cafeteria. Whoever had a company, such as Dr. Lester Lee, I don't know how many companies came out of that. So even to this day, Monte Jade is still focused on building community, a community of Asian American professionals. And we do this today under 3 pillars. First, the first pillar are these interview series, where we celebrate notable community leaders, such as Dr. Chen and many, many others. And through understanding their personal journey and how they overcame some of the many challenges they faced. There were many, many challenges before, but we have new challenges today. But hopefully these interview series sort of shed some light on how we can work on them. This focus on a journey helps us better connect great people to the next generation, all of you out there. The second pillar is focused on technology forums, in which we bring our community with new ideas to understand. And this, through these other forums, this enables the Monte Jade member to discover opportunities for investment or career opportunities. Recently, we've held talks, in venture investing, and now we're talking about AI, but many, many topics are covered. All topics are those that are dear to sort of the growth as well as what we care about as a community. The last but most important pillar is something that I've also been very involved in, is our mentorship program. This is a volunteer program run and focuses on building the skill set needed for future leaders. East Asians are underrepresented in the leadership of many Bay Area technology companies. Today, Asians continue to lag their peers in being promoted. So when you look at companies in Silicon Valley, which we all know very, very well, the majority of the workforce are Asians. But as you move up the ranks, the percentage becomes smaller and smaller when it comes to Asians. And unless they started a company, to be frank, very few of us are leading these companies. And this disparity has gotten worse over the last decades. I've seen it personally. And our mentorship program strives to help address this inequality. It's a 6-month-long program that focuses on educating and also providing deep engagement within the confines of small mentorship families to address some of these challenges of moving up the corporate ladder. And, we have just started this year with our, well, we've actually been running the open houses for the Issues program. If you're interested, please go to our website. It's montejade.org/mentorship. And also Ryan could probably post the link there. And so, we have people come back to the program to tell us how valuable it is. It has been really, I think, a true force within our community to build new leaders for Monte Jade. Okay, Ryan, we can go next slide. So without much ado, let's get into today. Dr. John Chen. Now, John, I have had the pleasure of knowing John as co-board members. That's where I met John. And my first impression, I remember walking into a Mount Jade dinner, board dinner. I think it was at Da Hongfu in Cupertino. This was back in 2008. And John, you stood out, hands down, you're the most friendly and approachable board member. Among a lot of the power leaders within our community, that's how you come across. You made me feel welcome and work comfortable to work with you, to build this organization called Monte Jade. And getting to know you over the years, what I've come to appreciate is the depth of wisdom and knowledge. And more importantly, your willingness to share. There's so much to share from your journey that started in Taiwan, like many of ours, that brought you to the US. And, I think in your background, I remember hearing about your stories of growing up and also, going through NTU, Taida, and then coming to the US, right? So maybe let's start with that. Like many of us, we have the same first experience of cultural, geographic transplant, coming to a new place. And you went not to Silicon Valley, you went to Maine. Is that right? How was that?
That's correct. That's why I was talking to Helen, my Chinese name. Chen Yuan Tai. Yuan means far, Tai means Taiwan. So people joked about, John went to Maine, the farthest states in the United States from Taiwan. That's how I end up in Maine. I didn't know where Maine was, but it was a wonderful place. Actually, it was a wonderful place. For those of you who haven't been there, they should go there. They have great lobster and the beach. When you climb the mountain all the way on top of the mountain, then you all of a sudden see the beach. It's a great place. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So you did your master's, I think, obviously in double lead, same as what you did at Taida. And then you decided you want to go deeper for a PhD at UCLA, right? So, but let's get back. Let's get into the sort of when you're obviously very, very well learned academically, but then how did you get a job at Hughes Research? I mean, some of us know, but some of you may not know. Hughes Research at that time was the Bell Labs of the West Coast, right? How do you get a job like that? That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's just luck, I guess. Somehow I was in this class with Professor Paul Griley. He's my professor in this class regarded to, what is the class? Microwave semiconductor. Anyway, for some reason, he liked me. I didn't know him at all. I was just one of the students. And he said one time I was late in the class and I told him, I'm sorry, I had to work in a small company to make some money for my living. And he said, where you work? I told him I worked at Ampex. He said, no, you need to come to my place. He was at the time consulting or part-time at Hughes Research Lab, Malibu. So he recommended me to apply for Malibu, Hughes. So I did. And not only that, I applied for Howard Hughes Doctor Fellowship. And out of the 7 people got the fellowship, I was the only Asian American. And I was just lucky, I guess. Somehow they liked me. And that place is full of PhD, except the technician. They're all PhDs from Stanford, Berkeley, Caltech, mostly Caltech, then MIT. So a lot of intelligent scientists. I was there. I was the only non-PhD still doing my PhD. Anyway, yeah.
Well, so John, I think I know we talked about sort of building careers, and I think even though you were a very young age, two things came to mind. Somehow you were able to build the trust. Your professor had trust in you to sort of recommend you to go to someplace where he's doing amazing research. He want to bring you along, and also the beginning of building a relationship. I think we'll be talking a lot more about those two important topics: trust and relationships, right?
Let me add one more thing. Malibu is a wonderful place. Like Peter said, it was known as the West Coast Bell Lab, full of smart, intelligent scientists. We published a lot of papers, but I want you guys know, if you can go there, it's on the hill overlook Malibu Beach. My major activity during lunchtime are either beach volleyball or body surfing. That's a beautiful place. It's full of fun. And our director, the head of the research labs, Dr. Smith, George Smith, he said, we cannot force creativity, but we can create an environment that is conducive to innovation and invention.
I think that's something that we always try to replicate and create, especially here in Silicon Valley, right? Because creativity, innovation is, well, it's what everybody strives for. But the formula to sort of build that environment, I think that's still quite elusive. So it sounds like you're very experienced in that, and I'm sure we'll see that come through in your additional career sort of accomplishments. Now, there's one other tip, is that while you were there, I think you were at Hughes for 7 years, is that right?
Yeah.
And in the middle, you took the time, once again, in John's way, to learn more. You spent some time at Anderson School of Management as in a joint sort of interdisciplinary program. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I was lucky again. I applied. My boss, I still remember, Dr. Richard Henderson said, no, you can't get that. That's very expensive, and Hughes has to pay all this. I said, let me try. It doesn't hurt to try. So one of my messages, hey, try it. It doesn't hurt. Just like you date girlfriend or you date boyfriend, hey, try it. If they say no, you try someone else. So I tried, I got it. So they paid everything. This is a executive management program to train engineers who want to become leaders and managers. I went to that program for 2 years, part-time, and Hughes paid everything.
So John, did you pick the program because the word leader attracted you? You wanted to be more than just a research engineer? I mean, we're always interested in what motivated you to want to do this extra work.
Well, you give me too much credit, Peter. I was just young and naive. I feel it's free. Just like those people sign up, our talk today is free. So I figure he was going to pay for free. Why not get another master's degree in management? In fact, I didn't pay that much attention. I just went to take classes in order to get the degree. And I learned things, but I did not really internalize, to be honest. But it is useful. Later on in my career, during the work, then nowadays, even today, I look at the old book and the old notes. They make more sense to me now than the day I took the classes. It was very interesting.
Well, John, I mean, I agree with that 100%, right? Because similar to you, I think I followed your footpath. I was a double lead, didn't do as much as you did. I only got 1 degree. And then I got a management degree as well. And the magic of...
Let me interrupt you here. For smart people, they don't need that many degrees. I have 4 degrees, but look how many degrees Steve Jobs has. How many degrees Bill Gates has.
Right.
They don't need that many degrees. So for those of you who don't have that many degrees, you're smarter than me.
No, John, I'm not going to dispute that point. We can't go comparing who's smarter because I know I will lose because you're in many, many ways. But the point is, I was going to say is that even though I learned some many, many decades ago, but exactly as you say, when it comes to the management practice, because the other side are people. Since we're working with people, I find that my principles or whatever I learn is constantly changing with every individual person, right? So in fact, when we do mentorship, I feel like I'm still learning. So I guess my point there is management is a lifelong learning, at least for me. And I believe hearing from you, that's the same way, right?
Definitely, definitely.
Well, your collecting of great sort of titles on your resume didn't stop just doing huge fellowship. I mean, how many people can say they worked at Xerox PARC? How'd you get that?
Yeah, this, my
I mean, Steve
parents,
Jobs only got a tour there. You actually worked there.
yeah, that's because my parents, immigrated to Silicon Valley, and they were getting old. That's one reason. And also, I was recruited by this person. His name is Chen. Uh, he was at Xerox PARC, but we met when he was at IBM. So he was leaving for starting his own company or something. So he recruited me. So I went up to Silicon Valley, interview with Xerox PARC, and visit my parents. And boy, they strike me. They're even smarter than some of the people I had known before, because that's the birthplace for PC. For many of you know that. So there are a bunch of computer scientists, and they all wear shirts and t-shirt, and some of them have long hair. The men have long hair. So they look weird, but they look happy and free. And I was told I could almost do everything so long as I published paper. So with my family and that, I turned my resignation. When I was leaving Hughes, my boss said, John, we could not retain you because you have learned everything. But free martini at lunchtime, you never come close. so, so I
Well,
went to Xerox.
so, what changed in terms of responsibility? I think if I remember, you were on the research team, technical lead at Hughes, but when you got to Park, you now have to produce a chip, right? And that changes sort of your relationship or responsibility vis-a-vis more than just doing your individual contribution. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is at Park I became official first line leader. Actually, the title is called project leader.
Mm.
At the time, I didn't know what's the difference between leader and manager. Today we may talk more. And I had like 7 members or something, 7, 8 members. They're all PhDs. 2 of them still doing PhD at Stanford because we had very close proximity to Stanford University, a lot of close collaboration. So I had to learn as the first step to be a leader, to be a project manager, and work with the fab. There's a fab managed by another group. Bill Miley is the name, this older gentleman. And he didn't like me initially because my group is doing research. And we always ask them to customize our IC wafer processing. We didn't want to use the standard because we always want to introduce new material, new devices. That just caused headache for him. And I had trouble. So I went to see my big boss, Dr. John Knight. This man is extremely clever. He has a bachelor degree from Oxford University. Then he went to Cambridge to get his PhD in physics in 3.5 years. So, and he is an Englishman, he is a British. So he has the command in both science and literature. And I said, Dr. Knight, this Bill guy doesn't support me. I can't get my chips made the way my researcher wants. I thought he was going to give me a lecture or, tell me some tricks. No, he said, John, you've been doing good. When you come to work, don't just start work right away. Go have a cup of coffee with Bill. I said, really? I said, to do what? He said, do nothing. Just have a cup of coffee and chat with him. Then I realized this is the difference between a leader and a manager. Manager tell you exactly what to do. Leader inspires you, motivates you. I find out by associate with Bill, the guy in charge of this wafer line. And we got to know each other. And we start build trust. And trust is the element you need to have collaboration. And I got to know him and his deputy. From there on, I had no trouble. And I just spent time, have a cup of coffee. By the way, the coffee was good.
So John, having coffee sounds simple, but I think you and I did not learn this from the management books or from the management courses, right? So this is where I think that, and you talk about leadership versus management. I think we probably learned a lot about management, templates and processes and so forth, but this was your first lesson in terms of leading through influence and not necessarily through authority, right? I think that's a big, big takeaway.
You're right.
And building a relationship of trust, as we said at the very, very beginning. Okay, John, so let's accelerate past time for a little bit. Those are great foundational work, sort of building up your technical skills, appreciating leadership, opportunities. But now you're at NVIDIA. This is the flagship company in our AI economy. I mean, I can't, not read something, at least maybe what I read, without coming across AI, machine learning, just every hour. And, you and I have been through the PC revolution, and we've seen sort of the software company, which, in the software industry grow up into the network world, now the network mobile cloud world. I mean, these are all phases of amazing sort of industrial mini revolutions. Now, is AI just another mini revolution like these others? How is it different? I mean, everybody says it's bigger, but every time before we come to one of these things, they say this is it. What do you think?
Well, you gotta read my book. This takes a whole chapter to describe, but let me try as much as I can. I think the biggest difference is this time, we're not just asking machine to do things for us. The key word is do things. We are asking machine to think for us. That is a lot more challenging. In fact, someday we want those machines to feel for us. That's even tougher.
Well, you laid out some really big problems, but personally, I don't think I want the last one.
So this is the challenge. And in the past, the 3 industrial revolutions, everyone takes what, about half a century or 3 or 4 decades. This one gonna take long, in my view. And it's more challenge, but the return on investment is higher. So it's very worth it. And it's gonna go one step at a time. We're gonna go from manufacturing, intelligent manufacturing, to autonomous vehicle, to robotics, and so on and so forth.
Well, I think that is sort of, it's not just scale in terms of how big the industry is, but what we're now seeing in the most recent sort of automation / sort of industrial revolution, the pervasiveness, right? Meaning that when you have a thinking unit, thinking machine, it can go into any vertical, any industry. Whereas before, when it was, let's say, certain engine and certain power sources, we automated large scale manufacturing. So I think, as you said, the implication is that it's bigger, it's broader, and but it's tough, but the ROIs are worth it. I think that sounds exciting. And so, and if we talk about the challenges in AI tech, right? And you are also uniquely someone who's part of two major building blocks of this AI infrastructure. NVIDIA, obviously, but you previously, before in the late 1990s and early 2000s, you spent a decade at TSMC, right?
Well,
And you're
look at my shirt. Look at my shirt.
You need a shirt that has two logos on it, but
well, you haven't seen nothing yet, Peter.
Okay. I will hold my surprises.
Okay.
So talking about TSMC and NVIDIA, I think that's one of the core theses we want to explore today. Both of these companies are leaders, at different levels of this hardware stack. But the product and operational approach of these companies are very different. And therefore, they require different leadership styles. Can you comment somehow? I mean, it's a very open question about the similarities and the differences, even though they're both hardware companies. But let's talk about the similarities and differences.
Well, that takes 3 chapters in my book.
Okay. I plan to cover the whole book today.
Let me summarize. Peter is tougher than my PhD preliminary examiners. He wants me to summarize things in a few minutes. So this is like a tough quiz. Okay, let me try this. They both are great company, and their commonality, and this is serious, no joking. They both are company with high integrity as their #1 principle. And I'm lucky to work for those 2 great companies. And Morris Chen, the founder and CEO then, and Jensen Huang, they both said integrity or intellectual honesty is #1. One phrase summarizes NVIDIA's culture is intellectual honesty. That means not only you want to be honest, if your partner or your supplier was misled to your advantage, you won't let that happen. And you don't pretend you don't know anything if you do know, even that's to your disadvantage. And Morris Chen said the same thing at TSMC. He told us, integrity means you promise something and later on turned out to be your big disadvantage. You still keep the promise. That's integrity. And you cannot, and this is serious, no joking, you cannot be a good leader if you're not a good person. Honesty and integrity is #1. This is what I said. And it makes your life have more fun. You don't have to remember what you said because you always say the truth. So that's why I'm laughing all the time. I'm talking. People say, John, you're not afraid to say anything. I say, why should I be afraid? I say it from the bottom of my heart. It's all honestly true. So that's the commonality. Now, there are differences because the business model for the 2 companies are different. So they require different effort and different culture and so on. And the biggest difference is TSMC, especially today, they're such a gigantic, huge company. Each fab has 100,000 wafer out every month. Think about 100,000 12-inch wafer out every month. Okay, I think someone told me if you put all those wafers in 1 month, it will cover the entire California state, something like that. Incredible. So their tolerance for fault, for mistake, is not high. So the culture is you don't make mistake, especially for operations. Every month you have to output 500,000 wafers to satisfy 500, if not more, customers. You cannot miss delivery. Now, NVIDIA, even today, we're bigger now. Our market cap exceeded Intel. That's amazing, 2x. But we still have entrepreneurial spirit, and we're a fabless company. We don't have a fab ourselves, so we could take more risk. If we fail, we learn from the lesson, then we come back again. This is what my CEO, Jensen, said. We have to innovate. If we stop innovation, we're gonna die anyway. We're gonna die slowly. So take the risk, make the innovation. Now, that's easier said than done. Mm-hmm. When people take the risk, sometimes, I can even argue, more than 50% of the time, you're gonna have failure. Because just like experiment in the science and engineering world, you don't know the outcome. So when they fail, the management, the leader have to forgive them. And Jensen is very, very thoughtful in every aspect to take business, to take adventure. But he is also have the heart to forgive, unless it's absolutely stupid mistake or repeated mistake. But TSMC today are less tolerant to the manufacturing mistake. However, saying that doesn't mean TSMC cannot be innovative. Depends on which organization you're in. If you're in R&D, you can still be very, very innovative, and they are. And if you give me more time, I'll tell you the story. I founded R&D at TSMC in 1994, something like that. And I was challenging, why you need R&D? We couldn't afford research. At the time, TSMC didn't even make money. Plus, we're so far behind, we just need to do development. We don't need research. I said, today, we did not need research, but someday we will. Now, I can argue they're ahead of anybody in this world in terms of process/manufacturing technology. And they have to do research. Now I go to a big conference, I ran into my old colleague presenting their paper, the state of art, the innovation, they're all very proud of. They're proud, I'm proud. They are part of the research and development team. And they can take risk, they have to.
Well, John, that's so well said, right? Because I think the contrast is really interesting, is that you have two organizations that are recognized as culture of excellence. But as you said, the business model requires efficiency, perfect output, high quality, because you're manufacturing heavy at TSMC. But on the other hand, NVIDIA, which I want to sort of dive in a little bit, it's all about innovation, right? And NVIDIA did not start out in the information industry, which we're all very familiar with, or it didn't start out as AI company. As you said, it has a entrepreneurial and risk-taking culture, but it's actually rare to see a large cap company and also a leader in the industry, because when you're a leader, you usually have a lot to lose when you pivot into different places. But somehow, NVIDIA has mastered that. Right. So what does it take to reinvent oneself, and more importantly, get into new markets? I mean, we talk about sort of the all these dilemmas companies have because they're making so much money where they are. Nobody, innovators, the dilemma. Nobody wants to change because you're making so much money. You kind of wait along, but when you wait too long, you miss it. But somehow NVIDIA seems to be ahead of the curve on that. And so can you share a little bit about sort of this ability to cannibalize some ways, some businesses that are going well in order to invest in the future?
Well, we did not rehearse this one, Peter.
No.
Okay, let me give you a few points. I joined NVIDIA 17 years ago. And about 12 years ago, I think, more than 10, and NVIDIA under the leadership of Jensen said, you know, we have a great business in video game. However, this GPU we have been engineering has this massive parallel processing capability. We should take advantage of it. There must be other areas and market and application can benefit from that. And not known yet. So I think it's about 11, 12 years ago, the company invested in the area called GPU computation versus GPU graphics. Okay, and now 12 years later, AI exploded. It's just the application that cannot have better fit than the GPU computation. Because think about, when you look at people, it's in parallel, right?
Yeah.
When you do things, you want to do as many things in parallel as possible. And AI, the two fundamentals, visual computing. You want the machine to be able to see things. You think about this way, very interesting. I'm not speaking on behalf of NVIDIA AI expert. There are a lot of them much better, more knowledgeable than me, just from me. You know, machine can render images not that hard. We've been doing that with graphics and video game, right? But for machine to see things is harder. This is in contrast to human being. A little baby can know this is my mom during the middle of the night. It's not gonna hurt me. When she can hold me, I will not cry. But they cannot draw pictures until they become 10-year-old or so. But machines the other way around. Very interesting. So anyway, my point is, you know, you have to do the right thing at the right time. It took me a long time to realize that. But for heroes like Jensen Huang, I guess he realized that when he was young. That's the difference. I realize that now. You look at the success people, the successful company, whether Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you know, when they were doing things, when they were investing things, Chen the same way. I can tell you another story, how he started TSMC. People laughing at him. Boy, you know, you're gonna start this company doing Foundry without your own product and you wanna make money? You gotta be kidding. Not only people don't believe you, they think you're absolutely ridiculous and out of mind. And in some way, any invention is illogical. That's why other people are not there, only you are there. And it turned out after a decade or so, it was the right decision. And when people, the vast majority of people today feel AI is the right thing to do, yeah, welcome to the wagon, but they are 12 years behind us.
Well, I think you hit it right there, right? I mean, in some ways, some company thinks that they could also do what you just said. As NVIDIA, they want to invest in something new. And sometimes when they do only one, the probability of success is not great, and they get burned, and then they never do it again. And from what I see from the outside, NVIDIA is a company that has a spirit. So even though GPU computation was one significant investment, but NVIDIA has done this again and again. They're not always successful, I mean, to be fair, but you have to have that spirit of falling off your bicycle, getting back on, and then keep at it. And I think that's how you said that, how you guys are continuing able to find something that you didn't know you were going to get into, and then have that invention, right? It's something in some ways unexpected, but obviously your gut says this is the right direction.
Yeah, and in reality, you also have to have the capability and resources to do that.
That's right.
Otherwise,
That's right.
you only have a dream, you can never come to reality. and that related to vision and strategy. Right?
Well, I mean, I want to say, even though Jensen is an amazing leader, but the capability comes from the R&D team. And you are, for example, the sort of the R&D type of back end to both TSMC and NVIDIA. I think sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit. You have these visionary leaders, but they needed you to sort of help as a part of their team to build this thing out. Give yourself some credit, John.
I don't need credit. I just need their stock price keep going up.
Well, it's all synergistic. Hey, Ryan, so I see that we have quite a few questions coming in, and my promise was that we would keep this interactive. And if if you're okay, do you want me to read them off, or maybe you can jump in as well?
Can I take a sip of water?
Yes, John, take a sip of water while we're bringing in the questions.
Yeah, Peter, happy to. We actually have a really great question from Ahmed Mohammed. He's asking about
Ryan, before you get there, let's make sure John is back at his seat.
Sure.
He might be refilling. John, tell us when you're back on the mic.
I'm back with different dress code. I'm back with different, since you're talking about AI. How do you like TSMC, this replacement to NVIDIA t-shirt?
John, you don't disappoint me. Like I said in the intro, you're the most friendly, approachable, and I'm going to add entertaining friend that I have. Thank you for the close change.
I told you when I was young, I was into the performing arts. You didn't believe me. You thought I was a nerd.
I would never dare say that. Okay, Ryan. So we're ready, and John's got his new armor on. He's ready for the questions.
All right, great. So we have a question.
Ryan, let's see your shirt. What kind of shirt you wear?
Oh, you want to see my shirt? Okay. Well, since we're all taking off shirts, I also have my favorite shirt on as well.
Oh, look at this GeForce GTX. We couldn't get enough of that for our customer.
It's a little bit retro at this point, but let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. With that, NVIDIA is going to be the biggest sponsor for Mount Jade going forward. Now back to the programming.
All right. So we have a wonderful question from Ahmed Mohammed. Education is important, but education with no path to implementing what you have learned is a waste of time and resources. What do you say about tailoring our education system in the view of the need for workforce requirements?
Tailoring the education. Boy, if I'm lucky, I have two professors in the audience. I'm reluctant to say anything. Well, education is useful, definitely. This is what I said earlier. At the time when you're taking the classes, you may be swearing and, and cursing, boy, all this work. And same to me, as I just said, when I was at Anderson School, I didn't internalize much. But later, you go back to the notes and the book, that fundamental helps. So education is very useful, to my view. And how do you tailor the education to the industrial need? Boy, you're flattering me. I don't know. I'm not a professional professor. But the little I know, I would say today, most good universities, they pay attention to what's going on in the industry. They're very, very closely connected to the research laboratory with the industry, like Stanford, Berkeley, UCLA, they all, Carnegie Mellon. I have a lot of friends, they are professors there. The only thing I would preach, I'll take the chance to preach for the university professors. It's good. You nurture, you teach your student, graduate student, to become entrepreneur, to form another Google, another Yahoo, another NVIDIA, and you can be on the board as well. However, teaching is really the fundamental necessity. for undergraduate as well as graduate. If a professor, if a teacher has no passion to teach people, then something is not quite right. And this is the danger I see. In the top-notch university today, most of the professors are overly drawn to the industry to start their own company with their PhD students. It's okay, it's fine. You can even say that's necessary. However, it should not take majority of the time with the sacrifice of teaching responsibility to undergraduate as well as graduate.
Yeah, I mean, I think, John, you said a lot there, but I think I want to point out that even in your early career, the kind of alignment of Hughes and its fellowship along with academia, so that talents has been cycled back and forth between sort of the, well, it's still research, but it's at least outside university. I think programs like that, which are in some ways in concept very similar to internships, as well as sort of I want to sort of use the word of you know, sort of the guild concept, which means that in our industry, I think there's a lot to be learned from the books, but there's a lot to be learned just by doing the work. So, you know, while there's not a lot of formal programs, but I am seeing a lot of interactions. For example, I think John does a lot of this too, but I myself, and also our past chairman, David Zhang, we're both kind of coaching sort of especially graduate student teams that are building real world products. He's doing for USC, I did some at Stanford. And I think that industry and academic marriage, giving students some realistic project to solve real world problem is the beginning. I think, I love to see more of that being more formalized and brought earlier in, but at least in some of these institutions, including, I remember MIT as well, they're very good about having classes that are when they're project oriented with a team, sort of being aligned with real industrial companies that are assigning them problems to go and solve using AI, using mechanical engineering. And then that sort of sets up the path to sort of real world, well, not real world, but industry and academic exchange, which I think is a very strong trend.
Okay, Peter, I agree, but not totally agree with you. I want to debate with you just to bring more fun to this interview.
I'm always up for a debate, and I'm going to say I lose.
Yeah. For the academic, for the educational institutes, university, to get immersed in the industry, to know what they need, all that, it's important. I don't argue with it. But if you ask me to wait between the fundamental teaching and education versus the application-driven kind of research, I would go for the former. I think the primary and the foremost important duty is teaching. And undergraduate teaching is extremely important, even more important than graduate teaching. You know, I don't want to say too much of that, but you induce me to do this. You know, I have heard professors say, boy, this semester is really bad for me. I didn't get enough contrast, so I have to teach another undergraduate courses. I said, what's wrong with that? They need a good professor to teach them. If they don't have fundamental, they cannot do good research. If they don't have the fundamental, they go to the industry, they cannot do something that is useful, valuable, and sustainable. Maybe they get lucky in one of the applications. Again, if you are that smart, like Bill Gates, like Steve Jobs, you don't need education. That's fine. But to be really direct, how many people are like that by birth?
John, there's no argument here. I respectfully also value. I think you got to know, you got to build a foundation. And in fact, I agree with you. I think a lot of academia is being too early harvested. They're too quick to sort of, research has been hollowed out, right? Our investment in research has gone down in the corporate world. The old IBM labs, Bell labs, we don't have those anymore. In fact, and then the university research projects are too early being spun out. In fact, from the venture industry, we're seeing too much science being funded. And, in some ways that doesn't even make any sense, right? So So I actually agree with you. I think the fundamental and the research and the teaching, it has to be there. But my point earlier was with that in place, having the other interaction will add to it, but it's not to replace what you just said.
Okay, good. I
100%.
I'm
So,
sorry,
Ryan?
I'm sorry, audience. You were looking for more fight, but Peter didn't want to go there.
We will have plenty of time for that. Ryan, want to go grab the next one?
Yeah, sure. We have a great question from Pei. AI is a critical innovation that is transforming business and society. What are you excited about? What do we need to consider or be concerned about moving forward?
I'm excited about they can think for us. They can do a lot of things for us. There are many, many applications that already exist, requires the AI technology, which yet to be mature or yet to be started. Like, autonomous driving. I'm excited for that. I hate driving myself. I drove from Maine to LA after I finished my master's degree. That really bored me. But it's hard. It's hard. It takes a long, long time to do that. And because we want AI to think for us. And it's harder for AI to do art than to do science. But already there are people using AI to do music composition and coming up good piece of work. And so I think there are yet many other market and application haven't been thought of. So there is no question about AI can bring excitement. What are the concerns? Some people said, well, you better watch out. AI can create something, destroy human being. I don't think so. I don't think so. We are the master. We're the one invented AI. AI did not invent human being. AI just a tool. It's one of the most sophisticated tools. But if we know how to use the tool, we'll make them to use for our benefit. Now you can argue people invented gun, invented weapon, and killed many people. That's because the leader were wrong. That's why I emphasize the leader has to have the integrity and honesty and the moral standard. Now you got me going. This may take me 30 minutes, but I'm going to try three minutes.
You get 30 seconds, John.
30 seconds. People said China, is uprising power force. I'm a Chinese descent. My family came from China to Taiwan to US. I liked it. However, I think China has exceeded very, very quickly in terms of science and technology and economics as well. But I can't help asking, has their moral standard, has their ethics also progressed at the same rate? Many of you have read this book, The Great Rome Empire Fall, right? And in US Senate, I don't see school emphasize ethics. I don't see school and parents even teach their children what's the right way to be a nice person, to be a kind person. I think most of them emphasize how you get into the best university and get scholarship and become an entrepreneur and to make a lot of money, to make yourself a lot of money and fame. That's fine, but that should not be the only emphasis. And a country or a region cannot prosper forever, even this great country in the United States, if we lose that. When I first came to this country, you know what I was most impressed? Not because of their economic power, not because their living standard, because my roommate I went to his house for Thanksgiving, and those people are just so nice. They're so nice, almost to the degree like naive. And they told me when they go away, they don't lock the door. Nobody come stealing things. At that time, that's the United States. That's how good, how nice people were at the time. And that applies everywhere. I don't know.
Well, John, I'm going to have to schedule tomorrow afternoon 4 hours to sort of discuss with you the rise and fall of Roman and then current sort of dynasties of the world. We'll have a lot of debate on that.
Okay,
But,
I'm sorry, that's a little bit heavy. But anyway,
yeah.
So my advice to young people, don't work too hard. Have fun, but be a nice guy. Be a good person.
That's great advice.
Important. You know, you probably hear a lot of old folks just telling you, give you a lecture, you know, work hard, work hard. No. Be a nice guy.
Well, I think, you know, bringing it back to the question you just answered, right? It's that technology is only one dimension. It makes things faster. It knows how to gobble up data better than we do. It has the accuracy, but at the same time, to solve a problem, there has to be a more holistic approach, which is you have to factor in the impact of doing things faster. What are the ethics? What are the rules? How does that play to play out for a better society and better world? So I think that's part of Faye's question, and you answered very well. Similarly, whether it's an individual or a tool or program that we're building, there has to be a more holistic approach to everything that's going to change the world, right?
Yeah, and I'm not qualified to tell people how to innovate. But I always stress this, in the AI coming world, the labor value less because machine can do more and more for you. And you have to get to the intelligence, get to the innovation in order to make a great contribution. And it's hard to tell you exactly how to innovate, but I would say get to an environment that's conducive to your innovation. Get to an environment, a company that allows you to take the risk to do something new, rather than just use you as a labor.
Well, John, I mean, I think you said it very well there again, too, right? Is that if we only focus on solving just a technical problem, the problem is becoming more narrowly defined, meaning that we're now, you know, displacing mundane, repetitive work, making that automation. But I think if you want to be an innovator, you have to reframe the problem. So if you reframe the problem from not just going faster with more data and more accuracy, you can now frame the problem as to solve the real problem. You have to include, for example, the ethics of that solution. So if someone who can solve the problem more holistically, I think that's another form of innovation. But anyway, I think this is a very broad topic. Thank you, Faye, for really widening our thoughts on the many considerations we have to have beyond just technology. Let's move on. Ryan, let's go to the next one, because I see a lot of questions queued up. So I'm going to hold off my additional questions unless the audience have a chance at it.
Sure, sounds great. And we have, please keep the questions coming. We have a great question from Davian, kind of off the previous thread of, you know, with all the advantages of AI, many employees are afraid of the implications that'll have for them. They fear that they might lose their jobs. As leaders, you know, there has to be a conversation about this with employees. How do you recommend discussing with employees?
I can answer that question. I had experienced before. You know, my answer is very easy. Don't worry about it. You know, if a robot can do things for you, you just go enjoy life. You know, when I was in Taiwan, we worked 6 days a week. After I got my degree or that, returned to TSMC in Taiwan, we still work 5.5 days. And now even Taiwan works 5 days. I wouldn't mind we become working 4 days, 3 days. Let the machine, let the robot to do the work. We just go have fun or do something more interesting, more creative, more innovative, right? And I agree with Peter, holistically, yes. Holistic is in beholder's eyes. Now, I agree. Sometimes I feel a person not in your specific field can come up suggestion better than the expert in the field. Let me say this again. And this is what I learned also from Morris Chen. He said, don't ever overestimate your audience's knowledge, but don't ever underestimate their intelligence. Someone not in the specific field you are in doesn't mean they're dumb. They can sometimes at the sideline to give you some appearing to be illogical suggestion will turn out to be very innovative. And you can do that too. And AI is holistic if you want to do what NVIDIA does, like to build a platform to do the visual computing. That's really hard. It takes 10 years with 5,000 engineers. However, if you want to just come up with a cool application, you can have a small team, an entrepreneur, and NVIDIA welcome that. Just like Apple welcome apps on the iPhone. And there are many ways to do that. I don't know if that answered that question, but I would say don't worry about it. Just play more golf or go karaoke like I do.
Well, John, you always make it fun, but I think
I'm serious. I'm serious about that. A human being doesn't have to work 5 days a week, right? Let the machine, let the robot do it. But don't let the robot to play golf. We can use that for training. We can use that as an example to demonstrate. Google has this great things. Robot can beat the best chess player, right? Many of you heard that. But that's just to demonstrate their capability and intelligence. Doesn't mean we want the robot to do all that work. Then what? Then the human being has no fun too. We don't play chess. We just go pumping gas and do the labor, right? Make sense?
I think I wasn't. I think what you said really strikes true. Having sort of watched a lot of companies being built. I do a lot of startup advisory and also was a venture capitalist. It comes down to not just how technology innovation is the anchor, is the foundation. It's very important. But as you said, it's the added value when someone else comes in to take that amazing technical advancement and now play it into a solution. And that requires not just sort of I call it the blind side of the technical innovators. They see the technology for what it's good for, but sometimes they miss how perhaps it's applied and how it could go into a different direction that could really change another part of the world. So you touched upon that. It's that blind spot of someone else who can add additional value. And I think that's the hope for, whenever we have a technology innovation, yes, it's going to change the industry structure where the workforce has to be realigned. Some of the mundane work will go away, but hopefully those people will still reinvent themselves to see around the corner for a lot of other things. At least that's kind of the hope that I have. And I'm very optimistic.
Exactly. Like you said, there's a technology push, there's a market pull, right? Yeah. And if you are like Steve Jobs or Morris Chen, you don't even need market pull. They create market. They create market. Like Steve Jobs said, users don't know what they need. I know what they need. That's remarkable. Very few people can do that. But
very few.
They can create market.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Ryan, let's take one more for now.
Yeah, sure. So I'd like to combine two questions since they're somewhat related. So Cervantes wants to ask, I'm wondering what kind of education and work experience background are required other than computer science to thrive in the AI workplace field. Mu also asks, for those who are transitioning to the AI domain, what recommendations would you have?
That's a tough question. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer. I have learned that today, software can write software for AI application. So I guess some of the mundane software is probably not going to be that useful anymore. So you just have to get to the next level. You know, I always feel the combination of art and science is something that AI era can make a difference. You can argue, you can never train a machine to be like a Picasso or Beethoven. I can say, well, I don't need another Picasso or Beethoven. But if I can come hundreds of them, they come to be able to do part of what those two gentlemen did. That would be wonderful, right? And what kind of training? You know, TSMC and NVIDIA, we have this deep learning institute. I think one of the more commonly agreed training is machine learning, deep learning. Because no matter how smart the robot is, you have to train the robot to make it smart. They don't become smart just because you put the metal together, right? The computer as a hardware also has a software. You have to combine the both. Today we talk about, at our company, we talk about put software, system, application, all those stack on a silicon chip platform. We have transformed ourselves from an IC chip component company, the keyword is component, to an IC chip platform company. Now, many people talk about vertical integration, put the system, the computer, the hardware, software together. I would say we want to do slightly different. We don't want to be like an assembly. Well, there's nothing wrong to be doing assembly work if that's your business, but not for this purpose. For this purpose, I want to have the integration and all the full stack on the IC chip platform if I can, right? For performance and for cost. And the Deep Learning Institute, the machine learning, I'm sure pretty soon, if it's not already exist, the university already have those kind of courses to tell you how you teach machine to learn, because they're different from a baby, as I just gave the example before. And my nephew, one of my nephew is a neurologist, MD, and he's been in the field for a long time. And he told me, even a neurologist doesn't know exactly how the human being's neuron cell work. You know, every day he goes home, he slices the human being's brain into slice and take home to look into the microscope and put in the refrigerator. Scare the hell out of his wife. But all they can examine is the hardware, how those neurons connected by nerves. They don't know exactly how software works. And that's the tough part. The training is important. Then you can have the machine to do the inference. So I would think deep learning training is something we all need to learn.
So let me ask the related question to that, John, right? You have a lot of learned experiences. Is there anything that you would recommend if you had a chance to sort of look at how you learn different things? Like what experience or what learning do you think you would like to change the order of how you learned it?
Good. I'm waiting for you to ask him this question. I can't hold anymore. Learning is important. Thinking is just as important. Last Friday, my team member, this young, brilliant guy, just joined us from IBM research. And I wanted him to do something with TSMC, our partner. And we talked. Then he finally said, this is Friday afternoon. He said, John, what is the AR? AR means action request, right? I said, he said, I can do this, can do this, can do. I said, my AR is very simple. He said, what is it? I said, do nothing. I want you to do nothing today and this weekend. But by Sunday night, you can start think. Think is just as important as learning. And this was talked as the last remark when Chen was given the Hero of Engineering Award at Stanford. And Henderson asking this, the president then asking this. And I feel exactly the same way. Confucius said, and I'm going to try to translate as much as my command in English can allow. Confucius said, if you don't learn, you get confused. But if you only learn without thinking, you don't think, you get rusted. I don't know, rusted is the right word. The Chinese says, 思而不学则殆. 殆 means lazy, means rusted. But Morris's translation was more fun, I thought. He said to Henderson, he said, Confucius said, if you only learn without thinking, you get confused. You know, nowadays, young people, they can all Google, right? Google is free learning, just like our seminar, our interview. But what you Google is data and information. They are not even necessarily knowledge. Forget about converting that to wisdom. So learning without thinking, you're confused. Thinking without learning, his translation is pretty soon you have nothing to think about. I thought that was very, very humorous and insightful. So easy to say than done. In your busy day, no matter how busy you are, don't let your boss push you too hard. You know, take 30 minutes, walk around, think. This is what Steve Jobs does, right? Did what he did. Walk, he always walk and talk. Walk around or sit there, meditate, think. You know, I still see in the industry a large portion, arguable maybe 20 to 40%, the activity are wasteful, are wasted. And 10% probably counterproductive. You don't want, like Chen used to say, every time we VP told him, so-and-so worked so hard, you know what he said? He said, so what? That's just busy work. Meaning those work may not be effective or productive. They may be just busy work. And some people just want to do that to show they're working hard. I don't want to name the company and the leader I have worked with. So I would want you to walk away to have thinking as good as learning. If you learn anything today, don't take it as is, you know. Be thoughtful, argue with what I said in your mind, and think. I wish you will have this tacit knowledge, like my book review, Professor Jin Ko said. He said, John, all your theory are practice-based theory. I would hope you walk away at this tacit message in your head, ringing, and stimulate your own thought, which are far better than what John Chen said, and be useful for your career, besides the entertainment value.
Well, sounds like your prescription, which I actually like, is what I do sometimes, I wish I did more often, is beginning the day before starting a very, very busy schedule, take a step back and really judge what's busy work and what's impactful work.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that. Look at this, Peter. What is this?
The thinker?
Thinker. Yeah, you got it. I was there. I bought a tie with this. So it's not just Confucian. It's not just from the Eastern, you know. Socrates said the same thing, right? Don't just tell your student exactly what they should do. Have a dialogue to stimulate them.
I think that's a huge takeaway. Thank you, John.
Eastern,
We'll all remember this. Ryan, let's come back to, I still see questions out there.
Let's have it. Let's have it. They paid their time to do this, even though they didn't pay money. Well, some of them.
Time is money.
We have a very discussion from Michael Lin, very much seeing the intersection of this conversation. You mentioned that the AI revolution is helping humans think. How do you see AI applying to helping us make not just business decisions, but also management/leadership practices decisions? In other words, have you come upon or seen any interesting applications of AI in helping people be better managers and leaders?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't quite say that, but I think you're right. AI, what I said is we want AI to think for us in addition to do things for us. And that's harder for us to do, for human beings to do, to teach AI to think for us in addition to do things for us. Now, you said AI can help us, human beings, to think. I think that's correct. And the reason for that is AI can take a lot of those mundane, busy work away. So allow us have nothing to do but thinking and come up better ideas. Unless you're just you cannot play golf every day. You know, you're gonna break your back anyway, if you're like me. So I think AI can help us to think, to do more creative things. You're right.
Yeah, I think to Michael, right? This is Michael. I think we know each other. I think that I'm seeing some very, call it rudimentary applications, working with a company that's doing a lot of customer engagement. And for them, AI is sort of a stepping stone where they've gone to automation, they have knowledge bases, they have now chatbots, but now they're going into AI, what they call agent assistancy. And what that means is that you really have AI technology, whether it's the ability to read real-time scripts, analyze voice conversations, as well as looking at visuals to help do diagnostic and maybe do even intervention as interactions are going on with customer on a real-time basis. And obviously it's not a perfect science, but I'm seeing people sort of providing this kind of guidance to try and create best practices. And with more and more data, it does get better and better. So it's not quite decision-making, but it is what we call a quality control. And with quality control, it's moving towards, I think, perhaps better interactions. And maybe that can lead to decisions someday.
Hey, Peter, you said absolutely right. Voice, what did you say? Voice recognition? No, voice.
No, it does real-time voice recognition, image processing, pretty fancy stuff.
Here's the application. I'm frustrated nowadays, especially in the United States. When I make a phone call, you only talk to those damn machines. And you cannot find a human being to talk. And I don't mind to talk to the machine if the machine has some intelligence, but most of them don't. And I'm wasting all my time doing this. You know, I'm building a house. To do that, you know, I call those people and, you know, people said United States cannot do manufacturing like the Asian people do. We just do service. Where is the service? There is no service. People want to be served. They don't want to serve people. And let's have AI to do the voice recognition, to have relative intelligence to answer our questions, rather than we have to hold the damn phone for 30 minutes. You call IRS, you're going to hold for an hour before you talk to a human being.
Yeah. No, John, you're exactly right. I think there is a very nice interweaving of technology and human, because at the end of the day, when I really have a unique issue, we all think we do, we want a person on the other side, right? You can have the best avatar that will emulate that. But having said that, I think we can have technology that will take away all the who are you existing customer, what's your account number, that can all be robotically processed. In fact, I don't even want to remember that. Somebody just pick up my phone number and get that data to, whoever I need to speak to. So I think we can make the interaction very efficient and high quality. And to me, that's where the service industry is still a very valuable person-to-person connection that we have, right? Because we're human beings. We don't want to be connected to a machine at the end of the day. But if we can make it very efficient, where the truly value add comes in, where that person is giving me a great advice on, this is what you should do. That's what I want.
Well said. Okay. Any more questions?
I think we have more. I see them still streaming in, right?
Well, let them ask. They paid the time to do this, even though it's free.
So we are coming up on time, I believe. We'll need to go ahead. So I think there's time for one last one.
Let's take one more.
Maggie asked, John, would you please introduce us a bit about your new book?
Please what?
Would you please tell us a little bit about your new book?
Okay. Yeah, my book title is almost the same as today's title. Is entitled Leadership in Management. I give my publishers 3 choices. First choice is leadership versus management. They didn't like it. And the second choice is even more bold, because I'm an engineer by training. So I said the title is Leadership Not Equal, not equal sign. The equal sign is a crop, not equal management. They didn't like it.
I like it.
Third choice is leadership in management. They liked it. They love it. And my peer review like it. Because in the book, I talk about the difference between the two, the commonality between the two. In management, you need leadership. And I was cautioned by one of my reviewers that don't give the management to a negative connotation. Management is okay, but we need leadership in management. That I have finished everything. It only took me 2 months to write 10 chapters. It took much longer time to incorporate my peer reviews comment, and those are all valuable comments. Including the comment from David Chen, our former Monte Jade. He was the first man I talked to about my book. Anyway, they're all good, valuable comments. And my editor, Cindy Hoffman, she edited the whole book. That took longer time than I wrote the whole 10 chapters. You know why? Not because I have good command in English. It's because I only tell true stories. I have no ability to tell any friction. I have no ability to make up stories. Everything is by my real experience. So it's very simple. This is what I say. When you are honest, things are simple and have more fun. Thank you for asking that. My publisher would like that.
Well, John, I think that's what we appreciate about you. You have so much accomplishment we can see, but you package it in very digestible, accessible stories that all of us can relate to. I think that's why we took the time to explore your journey, because at one time you were perhaps not at the same level as you are today, and we can all relate to that. But to see that you can then build yourself up, whether it's through work, through experiences, through taking risk, and as you say, just you want to do something to just be able to get more out of whatever you're doing. I think those are the great life lessons, and I hope that people have enjoyed this conversation. And you're funny as heck, John. I mean, I think this is only half of what you normally sort of how fun you are. So I look forward to the next time you and I get together for that cup of coffee or nice meal when things calm down a little bit.
If you or any of you, Ryan, Maggie, Helen wants to stay a few more minutes, I'll tell you another story, related to virtual conference.
Okay.
Do you have time or we cut off?
Well, we probably need to, with the program, official program, let's wrap up the program. So I wanted to thank John very much once again. This is what we do at Monte Jade, is to bring together a community, bring together leaders as role models, and to hear some story take some away, as John says, take the tacit knowledge and perhaps apply in our own lives so that we can all do more for our community and for our own lives. So Ryan, let's take it to some of the wrap-up slides. So I mentioned this before, as a part of one of the main pillars of Monte Jade is the MJA Executive Mentorship Program. We're currently building the program for this coming year. It starts in the late fall and runs through early next year. It's a 6-month program. And as you can see, we have many participating resources that we tap into, leaders in different industry sectors. These are actually all speakers that we've engaged in, as well as mentors from some of these places. So through the mentorship program, we hope to support really the next generations of Dr. John Chen. Next generation of leaders in general. See, John, I try to be funny too. And we do so by allowing rising professionals to connect with experienced leaders, in forms of forums. But the mentorship program has a whole program that's dedicated to doing not just learning, but also workshops and also interactions. And we're currently taking applications. And sort of it's at montejade.org/mentorship. And to learn more, I believe the link is in the chart. Next slide, please, John. Not John, but to Ryan. And Monte Jade is, it's a nonprofit. All of us do it on volunteer time. But in order to put up the program with the infrastructure that we use and so forth, we have to thank our sponsors. And we have our virtual series sponsors, which has been the predominant sort of resources that we're providing our services these days during the pandemic. But traditionally, we've also had very strong support from, just really the who's within the Silicon Valley, as well as we call it the Trans-Pacific community of technology companies. So once again, I want to check out our website with additional programmings that are always coming through. I want to thank everybody to share their valuable Saturday morning with us. And we'll sort of bring a formal end to the program here today. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you for putting up with me for so long.
It's my pleasure.